Geek Out! Hey, welcome to another installment of Catching Up. I'm Sam.
I'm Chris.
I'm Jake.
Jake, you fighting that con crud?
Yeah, I am, actually.
Yeah. Bummer. Well, you know who isn't fighting the con crud as far as I know?
Who?
Frank Barbiere.
Oh!
That was a good segue.
It is, because he's here this week to talk about his new book, Violent Love with Victor Santos, coming out Wednesday, November 9th through Image Comics and comic book stores everywhere and on Comixology. And you know what? Let's let Frank talk about it. And joining us this week, we have... How do you pronounce your last name again?
Barbiere.
Barbiere. Just totally slipped my mind. 1, 2. And joining us this week, we have Frank Barbiere. He's here to talk about his new Image Comics series, Violent Love, out in comic book shops everywhere and on Comixology on Wednesday, November 9th. Frank, thanks for coming on the show.
Hey, guys. Thank you so much for having me.
So with its kind of 1969 setting, even though I'm aware the film comes out or it takes place during the Great Depression, there's kind of I'm getting a bit of a Bonnie and Clyde, maybe more recent Natural Born Killers vibe at least from the story so far. What were some of your influences, and could you tell me a bit about it?
Those are clearly all of them. There's many, but all of those things are included. Jeez. All right. Well, warming up my brain to talk. I apologize, but both Bonnie and Clyde and Natural Born Killers are influences, but really the whole thing started with I did a book called Black Market with Victor, and Victor is one of my favorite artists, and I never imagined he would become a close collaborator as he has. But when I was developing Black Market with my editors at Boom, we didn't know who we wanted to draw it, and we didn't know who we wanted to draw it necessarily. I just kind of had the idea working with them, and I guess he had gotten samples from Victor. He was like on their list of people they wanted to pair people up with, and I was just like immediately ecstatic that they reached out to him. And we worked on that book, and it was an awesome experience. And I really got a sense of just how he works. And as soon as we wrapped up, I was like, "Well, Victor, I'd love to keep working with you. Do you have anything you really want to do?" And obviously, knowing his kind of history and what he had done, I knew we would probably end up doing something like noir crime-ish. And he said to me, like, "Oh, I would love to incorporate romance more into the next project I do, as no one really does this." And I took that and kind of thought, like, okay, this will really kind of give us more of a unique entry point than just doing like a standard crime book. And I had actually written, I had done a short run on Avengers World after Nick Spencer, and one of the issues I had done was a very just like heartwarming romance between Smasher and Cannonball, because you never really got to see them kind of get together, hear much about their relationship. Hickman had just jumped 8 months, and you see that they're together and have a kid. So I did that issue. It was the first time I really had incorporated romance into my writing, and it's funny because it's just one of those things that gets such a bad rap because of romantic comedies or just like the bad soap opera romance. And I really found that, like, oh, well, this is like a big human thing that we really leave out of a lot of smaller series or things like that. And I feel like it is a really human element. And I really just started thinking, like, okay, well, how can we incorporate this in and do it in a Frank and Victor way instead of just doing just like straight romance or just doing a straight crime book. And I really just talked with Victor, and we thought about what kind of book we would want to read, and knowing our instincts just kind of went for it. So, I've been doing a good amount of just like viewing and research and reading stuff and trying to find basically stuff that's all already been done. I don't think our book is so revolutionary, but I really don't want to just retread the same ground. And if anything, I feel like I keep getting people being like, "Oh, well, is this just like a Bonnie and Clyde thing?" And you guys, after seeing the first issue, obviously know we're setting up for far beyond that. It is definitely not the kind of thing where we jump right in and just see the couple together. We don't even see Rock in the first issue. And really, I'd say the first arc is about Daisy meeting Rock and seeing where they're at. And obviously, they're not in love the minute they meet. And from a writing perspective, I feel like that's a lot more of an interesting story to me, and approaching not only some of the crime stuff, and there's going to be like cool, big, like, crime action sequences and obviously a lot of tension, but also the idea of the lover being kind of the first opponent in the story and the person that really our protagonist, which is Daisy very firmly. And obviously in the first issue, I think we do a good job of establishing that it's all about her and her backstory. And I just really have become taken and fascinated with that and kind of working it out. And obviously I think Brian Vaughan did an excellent job with the Alana Marco romance and saga. And I think it was the second arc going back and showing kind of how they met. And like, I feel like that is a good model to jump off of when looking at stuff done well. And I mean, we have like Sex Criminals as well, which is a bit more of a romance book. I mean, they probably say romantic comedy, but I think that's selling that book pretty short. But I don't know, it just seemed like the right time to do something different. And in the wake of just so many kind of more traditional crime books, I feel like I'm hoping that this helps our book stand out a bit more.
I will say, so you were mentioning the series really focuses on Daisy, who within this first issue we see is very much anti-violence, anti-crime, and all that sort of thing. Granted, this being a story within a story, we kind of know how their story ends, and I mean, the name of the book being Violent Love and all, and seeing all the wanted posters and everything. So how much resistance can we expect from Daisy moving forward as she's kind of, I suppose, drawn into this life of violent crime?
Things get interesting quickly. Like, really, that issue 1 ends on what I hope will be a cliffhanger for some people, or at least in terms of interest in setting the story forward. But it really is a story about a lot of different things that I feel like don't necessarily come right to the surface in a crime story. And really, it is a revenge story, which we don't shy away from. And I think that the kind of romance aspect of that really kind of gives it a bit of a turn, and everything in the book, like, I'd hope is going to end up being a bit unexpected, even though we get a lot of that groundwork laid in the first issue. One of the big things is having the frame story in place that has a very specific reason as well. It's another thing I've just been fascinating with in my study of story and looking at a lot of I'm a big nerd for writing, and I like structure, and I like story a lot, and I read constantly and push myself to kind of look at forms and formats in different mediums that I haven't tried out. And I thought about a frame story a lot and had been reading a lot about it and how to, like, different ways to do it. And I knew that, it seems like a go-to for a lot of people, but they don't really lean into it. And I was really kind of cognizant of doing it right. I mean, I speak in the past tense as we're still working on the book, but in plotting it out, I really wanted to have a purpose. And I think beyond Victor's fantastic artwork and use of color palettes, it also helps give it a little bit of a mythic feel, kind of like a folklore feel. It's a story that's being told not only to the reader, but the young girl character Penny as well. So I don't know. I feel like it all came into place pretty easily, and it's a lot of stuff I've wanted to work on for a long time, and a lot of things I've wanted to work in. And my big anchor, of course, is Victor, who is marvelously talented and like a co-creator on the book and my only collaborator as he's drawing and coloring the book himself. And it is endlessly entertaining for me to write stuff and see him draw it and kind of bring everything he does. And I don't know, I'm really hoping that this book helps put him more on the map, as he's done a lot of phenomenal work at many different companies. And most recently, he just did a trilogy of books called Polar, which is his webcomic that Dark Horse put out in these nice hardcover editions. And it's just such awesome, good stuff. And I feel like he's a name that deserves to be elevated a bit more. And I'm really hoping his work here gets a lot of people's attention.
Well, there's something about Victor's style here that maybe it's the setting. I'm sure the setting plays a big role, but definitely his color palette and his just his line work really reminds me of like Darwin Cook in many ways.
I mean, it was initially one of the things that drew me to his work, and he was actually asked this question in an interview recently. We've been doing a lot of press for the book, and really his big influence, he says he loves Darwin's work, obviously, and Darwin unfortunately passed recently, which is such a bummer to all of us, and we're missing the great work he could have kept on doing. But Victor had said really his big influence is Bruce Timm, who again was Darwin's teacher in a lot of ways, and he says that watching the Batman animated series kind of changed his whole perspective on drawing and changed his life. So, and I'm a huge Bruce Timm fan. And obviously, that was the first thing I ever thought when I saw Victor's artwork, which I guess the first time I saw it was in he did a book with Brian Azzarello called Filthy Rich, which was part of the awesome but short-lived Vertigo crime line back. Gosh, I don't even know how long ago now, but they were like little kind of digest-sized books, and I remember seeing that and being like, "Oh my god, this guy is awesome!" And as I said, fast forward to now, I can't believe that we've become friends and are doing a book. So I do see that, though. I mean, it's remarkable, just like the people he's channeling and the work he's doing, and he also has a very big manga influence. Again, I've learned so much about Victor by reading his interview responses as we've been doing press, but. I don't know. I feel like that really kind of gives the book a bit of a unique tone. I mean, I think Darwin's work was obviously incredible in that way too, especially the Parker stuff that recently had been coming out. To see a kind of crime book with that kind of style and energy behind it was really exciting to me. And I think very similar in Victor's work, his style may not be exactly what a lot of people conjure when they first think of crime stories. And I think with much accolade and praise, the reason is that we all think of Brubaker Phillips stuff is our first instinct with, as I said, very warranted. It's kind of the bar in a lot of ways, but I really love that Victor's style is kind of the opposite of that in so many ways and has much more of a kind of animation look to it. And frankly, just his use of the page. He has done such innovative layouts, and I feel like even in issue 1 we see like he definitely utilized a lot of those double page spreads and a lot of just cool paneling stuff that does stuff only comics can do, and that's always refreshing when you are a comics creator to have a book that does that. So you can kind of point and be like, see, we're not just making like diet movies, we're experimenting and doing cool stuff. And I feel like as he's kind of gotten a little more comfortable with the project, not that he wasn't at first, but just kind of found what he wants to do with it a little more. There's some stuff in particularly in issue 3 and 4 where he's really just kind of like floored me and being like, damn, you got that from my script? Like, good job. As, again, we work very collaboratively. I'll write a full script for Victor, but with the caveat like, hey, like you make this work, you do what you do. And he certainly has much better instincts than I do about how to use a page creatively. And there's just, there's some action stuff, particularly like I said in issue 3 where he has like one scene running across the top and bottom of a double page spread, and then with kind of another scene in the center of it, and kind of coded them both by color. And it's just really, really jaw dropping stuff. Not embarrassing to say about my own book, but it's all him, not me. So it's what keeps me coming back to working on comics. That's always the fun thing as the writer, to see the art come back and see kind of what happened, so to speak.
Now, this may be like a really simple answer, but the word violent, like it's such a word that just brings so much to like your mind when you just see that. For example, like Sam and I were just up, and Chris as well. We're up at New York Comic Con and working volunteering at the Image booth, and there's a book out called The Violent, and again, just
by my dear friend Ed Brisson.
Yes.
Yeah,
and
he's very pissed off that I use the same word in my book.
Well, I was gonna ask
me about it constantly.
Well, I was gonna ask because like it's one of those words that like it just, I don't know, it just jumps off the page when like you see it, you know. It's just, I don't know if it's just the sound or what, and it brings up so much.
It's that V
imagery. Yeah, it's got to be the V. So again, I picked up the book solely because of the title, and I'm enjoying it so far. But what is the title that you came up with? Is it something as simple as, hey, that's it, or is it something you really thought about?
It was something that I thought about for a while. I mean, funny enough, I mean, the way these things always go with timing is James Robinson has a crime romance book coming out the same month called Grand Passion. And I was like, damn, that's a great title. But with this, it really clicked for me because I wanted the book is about passion and about emotion, like, and violence and love are kind of two ends of that spectrum, but they're both ultimately acts of kind of intense passion. And I mean, unfortunately I've had people be like, this book's not about like beating up women, is it? I'm like, oh God, no, like, yeah. Of course not. Like not my brand there at all. But really it's about the parallels between the two, and it certainly kind of has plenty of both. And I don't know. I think violence is. I'm a pacifist in real life, but I think violence, the way it's portrayed in comics, can be a little, no pun intended, comical.
Yeah.
And an anecdote I tell is like, I remember the first time I saw like a real fight in real life, like a violent adult fight between two guys at a bar, and another guy smashed a glass in another dude's face, like just drunk at a bar. And it was really horrifying and scary just to be there, like not even part of the fight, to just be around it. And I think we forget in a lot of entertainment, like that's the way it feels in real life. Like it's not something that is necessarily supposed to be kind of gratuitous and like sexy. It's fucking scary. And I feel like there's some stuff, particularly in issue 3, that Victor has done that, while I'm sure some people will think is like kind of bombastic and Tarantino-esque in knowing what he's done in like Polar, and really has a great job for crafting great action sequences. But I feel like it really does have that element of fear, and it's horrific violence. It's not meant to be cool. It's supposed to really make your stomach turn and remind you like, oh wow, the characters in this situation really are up against something truly, truly crazy. Like this is not a fun time. And I don't know, that's definitely our intent with it, and we don't shy away from the violence, but also we're not here to necessarily celebrate it. And I don't know, and when thinking about titles for the book, obviously, like, I think all the good obvious ones for a crime romance story are taken as I sat there and Googled, but I was happy that at least in terms of, and this is the like kind of more inside baseball sad part about coming up with titles, seeing simply what's available and that you can get away with.
Yeah.
And I was happy that this wasn't, and it ended up really working. And I think Dylan Todd, who did our logo treatment, did such an excellent job with the logo too. It really is kind of striking, and I hope it catches people's eye and makes them think and gets them interested. But definitely thematically, like the book is about both violence and love, and just kind of what we try to do with both of those things and what they add up to at the end of the day. And it ended up being, of course, like so much with this book, the perfect fit after we really worked into it. Because I'm trying to think of how quickly we got it. I think after Victor had sent me some character sketches, I kind of stumbled on that title relatively quickly. And I was definitely looking at like, I can't remember the stuff. There were a few things I tried or I thought of first and then Googled, and they were taken, and they were all like Charles Bronson movies and stuff. I was like, oh God, I'm embarrassing that. That's where it's at. But yeah, it's definitely worked itself in. And in reference to Ed's book, which was marvelous, I joke and he makes fun of me for using that. But I remember because this book we've been developing this for so long, and Ed had just pitched the violin, and I was like, oh, you bastard, like you have the same title. But I just now say like he'll have to deal with our book being next to his forever on trade shelves. Yeah. So suck it, Brisson. Suck it, Brisson. You wrote Batman. Chill out.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, like, I don't know. I'm just such a nerd for like great titles, and it sounds weird for me to say this, but like the word like violent is such a great word for like a title, like, because it really does. Like, I think it really is gonna jump off the shelf when people see it, you know, because it is too kind of
good to hear that. Well, I feel like you guys might be the first people I've talked to publicly who've read the book who haven't been like kind of close friends or anything. So I always come into this like horrified. It's like, oh well, I hope they didn't not like it, but.
Well, I remember Sam sent me a thing. He's like, oh, you know, we're going to be reviewing this book and blah, blah, blah. I was like, you know, who's on? What's it called? And he was like, Violent Love. And I was like, that's a fucking great title. That's a great title. So, yeah, well done.
Well, and as I said, we tried to work it in as organically as possible and find a fitting title. I mean, funny enough, I hate naming like issue chapters. I feel like some people, though I feel like people cheat. Whenever I'm like, oh, dude, you those issue chapters are so good, the person who wrote it will always be like, oh well, it's a song title. I'll be like, oh, okay, good job. I mean,
yeah, I see that a lot. Yeah, that happens like a lot.
I feel like John Hickman always does just like such a great job with his word choice and placement. Like that's always my like model to go to. But with this, I actually am doing issue titles for the first time in a long time, especially in creator owned. I mean, the big thing was Five Ghosts we did 18 issues of and didn't have issue titles. I mean, we had arc titles, but no, oh wait, maybe we did the first arc sort of. But anyhow, it's a constant battle to find the perfect perfect title month in, month out, and for a series. But this is not. Well, I'm rambling. But yeah, I thank you. I'm glad it worked for you because, I mean, the cover design in general. I feel like Victor like crushed that cover so completely, and then Dylan did such a great job with the logo treatment. I mean, Victor did the initial layout. Like when he sent me the first picture of it, I had said like, I was like a punk rock kid growing up, and I was always taken by album covers that would do kind of like cross section photos like that with like the face cut off and just torsos, and I always wanted to do a book cover like that, and I was like, it's funny to think of it now. I feel like that's it completely different, but because it's a single figure. But that's also how what was that Brubaker book called? The superhero one, Incognito. The trade cover Incognito is kind of like that and fantastic, but it's more of a headshot. But anyhow, I described that loosely to Victor as probably as poorly as I just did there, and he just immediately sent that back. Like there was no text on it; it was just the red background and the characters. I was like, well, yeah, you nailed that. Good job. and for a while, I had been mocking it up with my own like logo dress and stuff that looked terrible just to have something there. And then Dylan came in and did all the book design and dress and just really did such a great job. I mean, it's funny because I look at this so much because I actually letter my own books. So I lettered this one, and you spend so much time looking at it, you become desensitized. But I feel like I took a look at the proof the other day with like fresh eyes, and I'm super happy with just how everything came out in this book visually. I mean, both all the art and then all the design Dylan did. I'm very proud of the total package. So, I mean,
it's a I mean, Victor's art's great, but don't sell yourself short. It's just top to bottom. It's a gorgeous book, and I will say with the kind of the Bruce Timm influence and with all that sort of thing that which has a timeless feel. Was this book always supposed to take place around 1969?
Yeah, we came in and wanted to do a period piece. Like we jump around a lot. Like it's got a long scope to it. So I think not to spoil anything, but issue 2 picks up in 72. I want to say. So some time does pass, and we want to do 70s. Basically, that was our kind of target area for the main narrative, and it was meant to kind of evoke a sense of nostalgia for that time. And I credit Victor a lot more than me, as he's doing all the visual research on top of it, and I think doing a really great time of just capturing like a kind of nostalgic feel for that time. And honestly, I wanted to do a story where there were no cell phones. There's not going to be crazy cameras in the banks. There's not going to be just like all this annoying technology, like cars that I always say, like Frank Miller would say, like modern cars look like electric razors. Like they're not cool. So to have kind of classic cars in there as well is a big draw. And it just ended up feeling so much more appropriate with the material that it really just kind of came together that way. But that was our initial pitch. I mean, I wanted Rock to be a greaser, to really be an authentic one, not just someone who was like appropriating that fashion in the modern age. So I think it really kind of helped everything click into place for us.
Well, I think there's something to be said about the greaser image, especially going into the 70s, kind of the early 70s, where the people find out that free love, even free love, has its own price. But I think there's something proto-punk about these two people that just don't, I assume because of the violent world that they're dragged into, just don't give a shit about society at all. So, and you were mentioning you were a big kind of like punk fan. So is that, or we're going to kind of see that proto-punk approach?
Yeah, I mean, they definitely are kind of rebel outsiders in that sense, and really like we wanted that aesthetic. We wanted it to, and not to be just like obnoxious about it, but it's definitely a very free-spirited thing to decide to start living outside the law and robbing banks. I mean, I'd hope in issue 1 we get a good sense of Daisy's motivation, but beyond that, you really kind of see her life fall apart in the first act and how she chooses to take control of it and what she is trying to do. And this is definitely, we've had a kind of fucked up time with it, and I shout out to Image for helping me course correct, but when the first issue got solicited, Diamond, I don't know where the error happened and not putting anyone on blast about it, but the book got solicited as a miniseries, and it's always been an ongoing series, was never meant to be a miniseries. Like, very important for me coming in, as it is definitely paced to be a long read, not 5 issues and we're out. So that's been the bane of my existence. And like, we did so much course correcting for issue 1, and we're like, okay, we got this sorted out. Like, sucks that it was written that way in the catalog, but we'll get it. Then issue 2 was solicited as 2 of 5. I was like, oh my god, like, why does this keep happening? So I'm really happy to have the space to tell the story in the appropriate way. I feel like, as I said, I'm a huge nerd about pacing and having my books read properly, and sometimes you just need the space to do that. Like, I mean, our issue 1 is almost 40 pages and is really, if anything, a prologue. So I'm just so glad to have that space to not have to rush in and do all of that backstory in 2 pages, because sometimes that's what you lose if you're only doing a miniseries. But issue 5 will be the end of our first arc, but is very much the middle of our story to begin with, and we'll end with kind of a very big holy shit moment to hopefully bring people back after we do our small break for trade. We're also super ahead on the book, which is an excellent feeling. We have Victor is actually finishing issue 4 right now, so it's very surreal for me to not even see issue 1 out yet, which is a good thing. It's just a very weird feeling to be this far ahead. We've been working on the book for like the better part of a year in active development, like as in like, Victor has been drawing. So
now I don't know if this gives the game away, but being quite a bit ahead and having it all mapped out, we saw Daisy's origin story, for lack of a better term, with this debut issue. Are we going to see kind of Rocky's origin story as we get introduced to him?
It's, I mean, light spoiler, but not in the first arc. Like, we're going to meet him in issue 2 and get some of his backstory, but I do want to do an issue just like kind of the Daisy one with Rock's backstory, and I feel like that's going to be a really nice kind of bridge into the second arc. But there, I mean, we have it and it's interesting, but we're being a little coy with that. We want people to be attached, and very much the first arc is so Daisy centric. Like, I wanted to keep her the focus and really show that she was the one who's dragged into this more than Rock, who's kind of, well, again, he has his his nuance as well, but in the immediate moment, it's very much the Daisy show, so to speak, and we're going to kind of follow her on a more, as I said, we jump ahead in issue 2 a few years, but that's really just to get her kind of up to speed. And I was about to say huge spoilers for the story, but I caught myself. But we will introduce Rock, and as I said, they are certainly not a couple when they first meet. And the first arc is pretty linear from that point forward. We don't like flashback. I mean, we'll jump to the frame sequence back and forth, which is a bit more organic. It's not like we interrupt for no reason. But we also see the character Lou, who is the old man. We get to see him in the period as well, as he does meet these characters. But as I said, it's an interesting book for me because there's a lot of ground to cover, and we're definitely taking our time doing it. And I'm super happy about that. That it is the kind of book that I'm hoping people will become invested in and really kind of lose themselves in the characters who are hopefully more developed than people might be expecting and have more to say. And definitely, I'm super proud of everything I've worked on in my career, but really I only started putting work out in the direct market with Five Ghosts, which was about 3 years ago, and I feel like I've been very fortunate to put a lot of work out quickly and really learn a lot and hone the things I'm interested in. And this book is definitely I think, leaps and bounds beyond a lot of stuff I've done in the past, and it's good to feel that way. I mean, people feel that way probably about every book they put out. It's their newest project, but I'm definitely very proud of this one. And again, having it at Image is also just such a great luxury that we know we can kind of do it as long as we want and really kind of do it on our own terms. And not to say that every publisher is not great in their own way, but there's definitely a lot of autonomy here and a lot of freedom that I think will really help us do this book in the way it deserves to be done. And I just hope people like it and keep reading it, because honestly, it's Victor and I doing what we want to do. In the same way I will always say, like, Five Ghosts is just me, Chris, and Lauren's like love letter to comics and genre. There's nothing better than that. And the fact that people liked it and read it, like, and are kind of on board with that is just the best gift you can have as a creative team, because it's the comic we started making in our garage and would still make if we just, again, weren't even publishing. But that being said, quick Five Ghosts teaser. We will be doing more in 2017. Cool. I can't believe it's already been so long that since we stopped, but we've all been very busy. But I was hoping to maybe have something in Violent Love in the back to tease it, but like, we really just want to take our time and not show anyone anything till we have stuff ready to go. So that's always something I look out for. But Violent Love is definitely kind of all-consuming at this point for me. Like, I really have just been so fortunate to have Victor as a collaborator and really just doing some of the best stuff I've ever seen from him on our book.
Oh, I mean, yeah, it's gorgeous, man. Again, I mean, we're not just trying to get our noses brown. And it was so heartbreaking to see what goes down with Daisy, even on some level, without going into the specifics. You kind of, given the nature of the story, you kind of know that where her background is going to go. It's not going to be the prettiest thing on earth, but even knowing that, it was still so heartbreaking just to watch that all go down.
I'm so glad to hear that. As I said, it's the kind of thing where I've seen so much, and I mean, when you make the story, you know exactly where everything is. And as I said, I'm a big like student of kind of pacing and making sure stuff reads right, kind of on the page. And I mean, I wanted something intense to really hook us, and I feel like there's a lot of parallels between comics and television, which, I mean, really are more story parallels. And I'm just constantly fascinated in how much you can do in kind of like a single issue unit of comics. And honestly, I just wish I had the bandwidth to do every issue oversized, and I make an effort, like, especially definitely at Image, to always do issue ones oversized, because I want to give as much as we possibly can to get people into the story, because 20 pages is very fleeting, and I just don't want people to be like, either that's it or I don't care at the end of this. So I've been really trying to make sure things build in a really nice way. And again, I've been really proud of the work we've done so far. I think there's some really good pacing stuff going on to pat me and Victor on the back, and it's so much I think is Victor too. He is just so fantastic at pacing a page and really knowing how to draw the eye. And as I said, he did a marvelous job in issue 1, but I feel like really going forward, he really started experimenting with the space a bit more and getting a little bolder. And I don't know if you guys have checked out Polar at all, but if you even like his stuff at all, I would just immediately just go to the website, because it's all online. I think if you just look for Victor Santos Polar, but also the books Dark Horse put out are beautiful, and now they have all three. And that was really, it was very teachable, because I guess I didn't really start looking at Polar till, I guess the first volume was just about done when we started doing Black Market. But seeing some of the stuff Victor was experimenting with in Polar kind of influenced this book a bit, and definitely his use of color in the third volume, because the first two were black and white and red, but the most recent volume was kind of all kinds of colors and kind of using color in very intuitive ways, and that really kind of helped bring a lot of influence here. And definitely, I think as Violent Love goes on, I mean, there are the sequences in the first one, like the intro to Johnny Nails, where it's all red and black in those scenes. I feel like Victor is just really hit his stride, and it's so annoying because I wish I could show all the other covers we have and art from the from the future issues, but at least you guys have issue 1. I know you've seen enough to not just think I'm sitting here.
Rambling
on and on, but.
For our listeners at home, look it up, and we'll include it with the interview. It looks gorgeous. Yeah. I mean, it really has a pulp feel.
I don't know if you guys have it, but the first 8 pages I've just like blatantly put out there. So feel free to share any of those, like up until the page with like Daisy and Rock dead at the top, which again it's in the prologue. Sorry guys, spoiler. But the up until that page, I was very like, that's what we want to show, and those were basically what Victor did with me as the pitch. We were really trying to feel out like, oh, like what's this book going to look like, and blah blah blah. And I feel like he just immediately nailed it. And speaking of like, I talk a lot with a lot of my friends who are writers about like pacing and things. And honestly, I feel like in modern 20-page superhero comics, like you get right to it, you crank through because you have 20 pages, and more than not, you have a lot you have to cover. But I was very torn with the preview pages for this book because I didn't want to just show 3 pages of a road and a car, as I don't think that properly represents what's in there. So I've been very sure to make sure that sites are running all 8 of the first pages to really get that fun like prologue and get the frame story. But I love what Victor did on then page 9, the intro to Daisy, how he did that kind of like just ink wash portrait stuff. And again, that was the kind of stuff where I think back to playing like Final Fantasy VI, and whenever they introduced a character, like the screen would go black and you just see them in like some text, and that was where my brain was when doing that, because we see one of those for Rock too, which is integrated in as well.
Sweet. I love the Final Fantasy stuff on the Super Nintendo. I feel like it's lost in the shuffle compared to Final Fantasy VII, but
yeah, it's such a bummer.
Yeah, I know. It's like 3 and 4, I guess, released as like 4 and 6 were like or 2 and 3. Yeah, it was just which leads me to my next question, Frank. This is something we ask everybody that comes on the show. What are you currently geeking out over?
Well, I bought Gears of War 4 today. I hope I find time to play it with my brother. I actually have a twin brother who does not work in comics, and that is my current thing. I mean, I love video games, but I'm also super impatient, like in terms of sticking with them and having time to play. So I'm hoping I can carve out some time here and there. I've just been kind of all over the place because I live in Georgia, and there was just a hurricane, and thank God, like nothing got damaged in our apartment, but it was also supposed to be my friend's wedding, which got canceled due to the hurricane, and we were supposed to have a bunch of company, so we just hung up all this artwork we have at our apartment, and I just got to kind of take a bunch of shit out that I hadn't taken out since I moved, and nerd out over a whole bunch of just like toys and art that I have. But I really love, in terms of comics right now, the Black Monday Murders, the John Hickman book. I feel like he is just like such a great creator, and I mean I had the honor of sort of writing around his New Avengers arc a bit, and that was some of the most like memorable stuff to me so far in my career, just because to be a part of something you love is really a unique opportunity. And I know issue 3 comes out tomorrow, and I'm super excited to see that, as he has a lot of really cool stuff with just like the ancillary materials he puts in there, and I love how he just did like a table of contents on the first page, and I don't know, it just works for me in tremendous ways. It's hitting all the right notes. I'm trying to think of what else. Tomorrow's like a really big release day. The Capullo book Reborn comes out tomorrow too. Yeah. I really dug not to just sit here and be a shill for Image, but I really dug Moonshine. I love Azzarello and Rizzo, and obviously I think Victor has a lot in common with Rizzo in a lot of his storytelling sensibilities. And he's someone whose work I always enjoy, and obviously Brian Azzarello knows what he's doing. I would say he's figured a thing or two out. I'm trying to think of what else I've been
Any
super excited about.
Have you seen Hell or High Water? I feel like,
No, I really want to though. I feel like I feel like I missed the boat like an idiot, but I need to check that out. Was it good?
Oh yeah.
it's like my favorite movie of the year so far. So, yeah.
Oh snap is all I can say. I really loved Sicario, and it kind of snuck up
yeah.
on me again. I feel like I don't get to the movies as much as I want to, and I always have to wait till stuff comes out on like Blu-ray. But that is definitely on the top of my list. Thank you for reminding me of that. Obviously, Westworld has kind of been a happy surprise. Funny enough, I wasn't like totally taken by the pilot. I really liked it, but I thought it was kind of a lot of almost prologue-y stuff. But I thought the second episode was fantastic. I almost wish. Well, I mean, I don't care because I get to see all of it, but I almost feel like the introducing the characters to the world stuff would have made for maybe a little bit more of a immediately grabbing pilot, but I respect what they did, and I'm kind of now on board and really psyched for that.
I totally agree. I've been a huge fan of Westworld for a while, the original movie, and seeing this show, I was like, all right, cool. I feel like they're doing it all right, and I'm excited to see where they're going with it.
I didn't know that they had tried to do a Westworld show. Like, I was reading the Wikipedia like a nerd afterwards because I didn't know that it was it was just a screenplay. I thought Crichton had also done a book, but he wrote it to direct it. And so before Jurassic Park, I was talking with my girlfriend. I was like, oh man, like I wonder, like chicken or egg with this. I was like, oh no, Westworld way before, and I wonder if that kind of the whole theme park element stuck with him till we got Jurassic Park as well.
I like to joke with my friends that it's his rough draft for Jurassic Park.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's so much, right? Like you see, like all these kind of almost like proto characters, etc.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm a gigantic nerd for process stuff, so that's why I will immediately like dig. But did you what I find fascinating about Westworld too is Brubaker is a staff writer on the show.
Oh, is he?
And supervising producer.
Oh.
Yeah,
I don't read the credits.
He's actually. I don't think. I mean, I'm curious to see where the episode credit will go. If he actually gets credited episodes, or if he's just on the writing staff. But yeah, he is on the writing staff. He's been talking about it a lot, and I mean, he's one of my favorite writers. So I mean, it makes sense that it's working out.
No, I mean, I haven't had a chance to watch Westworld yet. I'm still only 3 episodes into Luke Cage. I feel
see, I fallen off Cage, which I also love too, but not fallen off. But I'm not super into binge watching, and I won't get on a soapbox about it because I mean, entertainment is entertainment. But I like to kind of take time and digest a little. But I think we've watched 5 of Cage, and I really dig it so far.
Yeah, I'm on the same level. It's almost like a nostalgia for me, like the early '90s, where you were stuck watching 1 episode a week, and it's kind of nice.
Well, you only did when you did your next gen rewatch, you only did what, 1 episode a day?
Pretty much.
Yeah. See, and I feel like that at least gives it time to like
marinate,
sink in a bit. I mean, there's things I've just gone through and blasted through, though. Of course, I'm not judging anyone, but like. I mean, I think of Daredevil. Like, I feel like we watched Daredevil in 2 days, like my friends and I, and there's some of it like I don't remember because we watched it too fast, and I'm just like, oh, that's a bummer. I need to go back and give it a little more space. Yeah. Well, but I'm trying to think of what else. And I mean, Brubaker's new book, Killer Be Killed, is excellent. I think issue 3 comes out tomorrow too.
Yeah, it's a big day.
All-Star Batman #3. Yeah, Scott.
Yeah, it's tomorrow.
Yeah.
I mean, Scott is a phenomenal writer, and I feel like I was just going back and looking at some of his Court of Owls stuff, which is just such a brilliant take on Batman. Vision doesn't finish tomorrow, does it? I can't.
No, that's got some time.
Okay, well, Vision, I mean, unabashedly, starting to talk about Batman, bring me a Tom. Like, I think Tom, honestly, like many people, is just like truly a talent we haven't seen in a while. And again, as a peer, it's just astounding to me. I met Tom 3 years ago. I guess it was 3 years ago when 5 Ghost 1 came out. Chris and I did some signings up the coast on the East Coast up to kind of we went up to Massachusetts and down. And I met Tom, and he was trying to break into comics. And he was so nice, and we hung out, and he was telling me about his novel, Once Crowded Sky, and how he was trying to pitch some stuff at Vertigo. And we stayed buddies, and I'm just like, I saw him at San Diego, except I was at New York. I was like, well, Tom, I think you figured out how to break into comics, man. Like, you got there. But he's been putting out really, really strong stuff that's just like, fuck, I wish I wrote that.
New issue of Sheriff of Babylon tomorrow, too. Again, it's a big day.
I knew he had something coming tomorrow.
Everybody has books coming out.
Jesus, I need to bring up the release. If I bring up the Diamond new releases, I will tell you what I'm nerding out about as I get through. I mean, I'm a very active comics reader. Yeah. I used to say, like, oh, I feel bad saying this, but I don't feel bad saying this. Like, if you work in comics and don't read comics, like, honestly, go fuck yourself. Like, for real. Like, don't trash the medium you work in. Like, if you don't have time, fair, but, like, there's some people who just like, oh, I don't read comics, they're bad. It's like, oh, well, part of the problem, guys. Like,
you hear that, Alan Moore? You hear that?
Taking Alan Moore to task.
I will exempt him.
Well, he's not in comics anymore, so I guess that's okay.
He's done enough.
He will seek his snake god on us.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah, but no, yeah, it looks like, oh, man, previews. What did you do to your site? It used to just be a list, and I don't know what the hell I'm looking at.
Yeah, now you have to do like table view now. It's like
okay, the current call button was over it.
Yeah.
Let's see, what do we got here?
I can't badmouth previews too much because I write a magazine that's a supplement to previews.
Oh no, I don't. I know I said I had beef about my book being listed, but that shit happens. It's all good, and it's what we have. What do you write in previews?
I write a couple columns in Image Plus.
Oh, awesome!
Yeah,
which columns do you write in Image Plus?
Well, from issues 3 on, I wrote the Comics Uncovered, where I just talk about like back issue stories, and then starting, I guess this is a bit of a exclusive. Starting this month, I write the debut or upcoming series interviews.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I write the questions for David Brothers, and so I've got the cover feature this month because they're doing Curse Words by Charles Soule and Ryan Brown.
Oh, and it's also my good friends,
yeah,
Ryan and Charles. That's awesome. No, congrats. Yeah, that stuff has all been fantastic. Like, I was very honored to be in I guess we were in number 5.
Yes. Yeah.
I had a lot of stuff for Violent Love, and I hope that caught people's interest. I was very excited to have it in there and to run our little trailer. Just, to shamelessly ape Brubaker as much as we can. I'm like, we can do a comics trailer. He does it. It's great. Like,
oh yeah, but you've also, I mean, Five Ghosts is very much its own kind of animal, and that's I always kind of dug that. It was such a genius idea that this guy would be able to like kind of draw from these these familiars or these kind of like spectral companions.
Thank you so much. I mean, it's a book that is so near and dear to our heart, and I feel so shitty that we've left people hanging for so long, but it literally is the kind of thing where we hit the pedal and did not stop for like 4 years, and we just needed a minute to recharge, because quite honestly, we should have. I think the quality is still there, so I'm not disparaging my own book, but we should have taken a break before Volume 3 to recharge our batteries a bit, but we just got caught up in that bug of like, no, we got to keep it coming out. We don't want to lose our audience. And I don't know. I'm super proud of that book. I think Chris is, again, a unnaturally good artist and just has such excellent sensibilities for being as young as he is. And I can't wait to jump back into it because we know what we're doing in Arc 4, but right now I can't say what he's doing, but he's wrapping Predator, Aliens, Dread, which has been awesome with John Layman, and Chris is like a huge Dread fan, so that's been an awesome experience for him. And then he has another mini series I think he's going to do, and then we will be back to Five Ghosts. And I am just sitting around like scratching at my face, waiting to get back to it. But we have some other stuff hopefully in the universe I want to do as well. But I'm just so cautious because I don't want to overextend our bandwidth. And the one thing I am huge on is not competing with myself. on the shelves. Like, it's hard enough to compete with the Brian Vaughns, with the Kelly Sue DeConnicks, and the books I will buy out of my own finances instead of my books, that I have a lot of stuff that I'm hoping to do with Image over the next few years, and I'm just being very careful about my scheduling, because I don't want you to have to go spend $10 a week on my stuff. I mean, some people will, and that's awesome, but I try to be realistic about it as much as I can. And I don't mean that in a deprecating way. Just people have limited budgets, and it's very easy for them to trade weight, and I would rather kind of give them the space to check out our issues.
And I'm super excited to hear that Five Ghosts is coming back. I was wondering, and I don't know if this is if you can talk much about it, but is there still an adaptation for Five Ghosts in development?
The sci-fi stuff, unfortunately, fell through, as it was very crazy, though, because the show sold sci-fi. So it was like, this is happening. We're going to shoot a pilot. Let's go. And we're very caught up in it and excited and ready to go. And then the writer they hired, who is a very storied, successful writer, sci-fi just did not like his script. And he redid it 3 times. And finally they were just like, all right, we're not doing this. And everything fell apart on that. But we got our rights back completely, which is awesome. So a lot of times when stuff sells, it gets held up because of money. I mean, the bad part being, not to be overly candid, was we got 0 money, but live and let live. But we have the project back and own it completely. And we've definitely been pursuing some stuff on that side. But it's been nice because it's a lot more under our control this time and kind of our vision for the project. But we are also full-time in comics, and I don't want to try to pivot away from that and just keep that going as my full-time job. So it's been trickling through, and I feel like along with the book, I don't want to do any kind of formal announcement until we have stuff ready to go, as I don't want to be one of those projects where it's like, we're doing a movie, and then no, we're not doing a movie, and just Boy Who Cried Wolf did. But again, I was super flattered that there was interest in the project, and everyone at Universal really did right by us and championed it. But ultimately, I hope we see something someday, and it's out there and moving. But I don't know where I'm going with that.
Well,
other than I hope so, and we're trying. But I don't know. I'm hoping there's going to be an adventure boom soon, especially if Disney really does do new Indiana Jones stuff. I'm hoping they treat it right and really kind of get that, because to be honest, I feel like so many networks, and which is why it's hilarious that it was Sci-Fi where we ended up selling to. I feel like people are very afraid of adventure. If it was a cop show about a guy possessed by 5 literary characters, everyone was ready to go. Every network pitch we were at, they were like, can he be a cop? But thankfully, they stuck to the period, and we're very much no, this is a period piece, and it's very important. It's in this kind of amorphous 30s era, and all the major networks were like, yeah, no, we want him to be a cop. And it's like, oh, of course you do. But
we've had both Tim Seeley on the show and John Layman on the show mentioning Judge Dredd, Alien Predator, and both of them were just it's a cool thing you got the complete rights back to Five Ghosts, because both of them in regards to adaptations.
Yeah, Hack/Slash is a cautionary tale at this point.
And so is Chew, really. Chew's been back and forth for so fucking long between animated series or animated movie or this, that, and the other thing. So yeah, it's really cool.
We were kind of really it was. Those negotiations were I swear I had an ulcer from them. It was the most stressful thing in the world, and our deal was just very complex, I guess I will say. But ultimately, as I said, everyone who was involved really did right by it, and it was a good experience. But that stuff bums me out, as it's so slow moving, and so I'm so outside of it, and that's fine. But right now, I'm still trying to just keep my footing in comics as much as I can, and fortunate. It's the thing I always love about comics. I know I can put a comic out. and in a relatively short time we can actually make a thing, and even if I self-published it, we could have it made and put it out and people could actually consume it, versus so much film TV stuff where everyone, even when people say they are doing it and it's going to happen, it's like you don't believe it till it's like on TV. And I feel like as an industry we've kind of gotten past that whole like weird TV speculation, because so few things actually made it through the ringer. And I mean, I don't wish ill on anyone. I wish everything was adapted and made everyone tons of money and brought more interest to the medium of comics. But I feel like it's been kind of a slow trickle. And I don't know, I am a purist. I feel like whenever I hear something's in development or anything like that, like the nice part of me is like, oh, good for the talent involved. Like, that's got to be exciting. But part of me is like, well, read the fucking comic. Like, the comics are still good. They will remain good, and you can still read them right now. Like, it's not, you don't need the movie to validate it.
Yeah, it's almost like a Fraction once said that it was like, it's really cool whenever Marvel Studios puts out, because he was writing both Thor and the other guy that gets movies, Hawkeye, at the time, and he was just like, it's really cool that Marvel Studios basically puts out a giant multi-million-dollar commercial for my book every couple of years.
Yeah, that's well, I feel like I'm mildly excited as because I did the Howling Commando series last year, and they just announced at Comic-Con, I guess it's coming out at the end of this month, that the new animated Hulk movies, the Howling Commandos are in it. I guess it's Werewolf, Vampire by Night, Zombie, Sitwell, and maybe Man-Thing, I want to say. I can't remember who the other one is, but I'm like, oh, that's cool. Like, I had no clue. Like, and I think like Al Ewing and I are the only people who ever wrote Zombie, Jasper, Sitwell. So I'm like, oh, well, that'll be fun to see that adapted. Though it's funny because they're like, in the voice acting of Zombie Jasper Sitwell. I'm like, well, if they did it, like, I don't think he's really gonna talk. So someone grunting into a microphone.
Yeah,
but
they still get their SAG card.
It'll be fun to see. And that being said, too, I do love doing anything I can at Marvel and DC, and I've been fortunate enough to have some stuff that will. I have no idea when it's going to be announced or when we can even talk about it, but I have good relationships there, and really, like, I love that stuff, and it's what got me into comics, like modern superhero comics. I think they've honestly been better than they've been in a long time. So I will hopefully have some things to announce sooner than later, but it's a crazy lull as a freelancer. Like, it'll be like everything's happening, and then suddenly it'll be like, oh my gosh, am I going to have to like go get a day job next week? I don't know what's going on, but I feel like things are on my end getting crazy again. I've been kind of in my like bunker working on creator-owned stuff, but now it's turning back to kind of filling up the schedule.
Right. Well, beats the alternative. So, Frank, before we let you go, is there anything else you'd like to plug, or anything you want to tease about Violent Love before we sign off?
Victor is actually coming to America for the very first time to come sign with me, which is really exciting. We'll be at Third Eye Comics on release day, November 9th. Hopefully not being bummed out about who our president is on the day after Election Day. I mean, to each his own, but if you're looking to either celebrate or blow off some steam, you should come to Third Eye Comics, as Victor and I will be there and signing Violent Love. And then on Friday, we will be in New York City at Midtown Comics. I don't know if they announced that yet, but we'll be doing a 6 p.m. signing at Midtown Comics. Not the Times Square one, the one in the financial district.
Yeah, probably downtown.
The one where
That's
they have
do most
for
of the
signings. But that's really exciting for me because, I mean, despite having lived in New York for like 6 years, I never signed at Midtown, so that's going to be a lot of fun. And then we're going to be at Comic Book Jones, and I believe it's Staten Island, not Long Island, like a fucking traitor to the tri-state area, forgetting what's what on Saturday. But I'm really excited for that, as, again, I've never met Victor, and he has never been to the U.S. before, so I'm going to be able to kind of Sherpa him and show him New York.
Show him your favorite pizza place.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's I'm at least qualified to show someone around New York, so.
Well, you're originally from, is it Jersey?
Yeah, I grew up in Jersey. Then like most people who grew up in New Jersey, ended up living in New York for a good chunk of time, and now I live down in Georgia for the moment, which is exciting. But like I feel like I'm on vacation, and any chance I get to come up north is a good one.
Where did you grow up in Jersey? Just because my dad is from Jersey.
I grew up in Morris County in a town called Denville.
Okay. My dad grew up in Wyckoff. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that.
I think a little bit north.
Yeah, that's North Jersey.
Well, let me tell you, I'm so messed up by how big the southern states are, because Jersey is not that big, and most of the states aren't. And I used to like tour in bands a lot, so I do a lot of driving, especially in the Northeast. And when I'm like, wait, we can drive 4 hours like in any direction and still be in Georgia, like my brain was kind of melted by that. This weekend when we were evacuating for the hurricane, I was just like, what? How big is this state? And just looked at a map. I was like, oh, Jesus Christ. Like,
wait until you get to Texas, bud.
Oh, God, no, I can't even imagine.
my parents drove east to west in Texas, and they had to stop for the night before they crossed the border into the next state.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Oh man.
I was in Canada for the first time a few weeks ago, speaking of travel, and I was just amazed. Like I did a show, an awesome show, Sask Expo in Saskatoon in Saskatchewan, and as we were like flying in, like I was like looking down over just like weird like white desolate like snowfield sort of looking shit. I'm just like, oh man, like I know nothing about Canada, and it seems like there's nothing around. But then we were in a city. I know, great story. But
it's just miles of nothing. It's like the Midwest. You just kind of it all blurs together, and then eventually you're just in Lincoln, Nebraska.
Well, I also went to Kansas City, Missouri the first time, and I'd never really been to, other than driving through the Midwest, which was a great show, Kansas City Con. The only travel I do is for Comic-Cons now, so that's my life. But I feel like Comic-Cons, though, are good excuses to go places. I really wish I was famous enough to do international shows, so, one day.
Hey, man.
So, hearing people like Layman be like, yeah, I did, like, this New Zealand show, and it was, like, a week long. I'm like, oh, fuck my life. Like, I'm doing this wrong.
You got a new book coming out. Maybe. Don't sell yourself short.
I hope so. Yeah, no. It's, but veering off topic. But yeah, I'm wrapping up a series called The Revisionist at Aftershock, which I've been so proud of, which I feel like weirdly has gone under a lot of radars despite me being really proud of it. And Aftershock doing an excellent job just kind of building a new company and having a really strong lineup. It's with me, Gary Brown, who is also doing Black Road at Image and is a monster who can draw 2 books at once. I feel like I should not let that secret out into the industry. But yeah, Gary is one of the most dedicated artists I know and has been working on Revisionist with us as well as doing Black Road over at Image. And I think issue 5 comes out next week, I want to say, because I just got comps of it. And if you have not checked that out, please do. It's a story about a time-traveling assassin that's a really fun kind of almost like crime sci-fi story that I hate being like Mr. Marketing, but it's very much in the vein of Five Ghosts in a lot of ways. Like obviously not fantasy or literary, but I feel like it has a lot of the same sensibilities. So if you like my stuff and haven't checked that out, I would recommend it. And all right, I'll stop plugging momentarily, but then if you find yourself enjoying Violent Love or you just think Victor's art looks cool, I would highly recommend, one, checking out his Polar books, like I said. That's Polar. Like he has the whole thing online, but Dark Horse has also done awesome print editions of them. And then also the book we did at Boom Studios, Black Market, is a book I'm really proud of that, oh gosh, I guess it was like 2 years ago already, but which is about a world with superheroes where our main character, who is a normal guy, figures out that there's a cure for all disease in the DNA of the superheroes, but they're kind of dicks and don't really give it up, so he starts a black market operation to steal their blood and DNA, which clearly does not go well, but it's a good story. I'd like to think. I'm sorry, now I'm very far, but it's beautiful work by Victor as well. He just really did such smart stuff in that book, and I'm still immensely proud of it. But yeah, and then Violent Love, November 9th. We are going to be at it for a long time, and hope you guys all enjoy it. And thank you guys so much for letting me come on here and ramble. I'm very, very happy to be talking out loud about this book. I've done a lot of text interviews, and again, Victor, thank you so much for inviting him on the show, but he is not really confident enough in his kind of auditory English. He was like, if we were doing an interview face-to-face, I'd be good, but he's a little afraid of podcasts. So
Sure.
I apologize for him not being here to hear me stutter through facts. But
yeah. No,
but
totally,
he will be with me in America for the first time. Let me just oversell that for Mount Love. And as I said, Third Eye is unabashedly like my favorite retailer in the U.S., and they have just been so awesome, hooking me up with great signings, and I'm so happy they're bringing Victor out, and it should be a good time.
Sounds good, man. Well, again, like you were saying, Violent Love, #1, out in comic book shops everywhere on Wednesday, November 9th. Frank, thanks again for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me, guys.
Pleasant interview, pleasant chap.
Indeed.
From your father's home state.
Yeah.
The Garden State.
Well, he grew up.
Yeah. And
the boss's state.
Also the boss's
the best Bruce in rock and roll.
Yes.
Yeah. Over Kulik.
Yeah. Kulik's from New York.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, we legitimately think that book is fucking awesome.
Yeah.
So definitely check it out again. Out in comic book shops everywhere. And on Comixology on Wednesday, November 9th. What you guys been up to? Anything lately?
I finished a rewatch of The Prisoner. I recently picked him up on Laserdiscs, which I'm sure I'll mention on a soon coming episode of Laser Dicks.
Ew.
But yeah, I'm a big fan of the show. I watched it once about like 5-6 years ago, and I watched it again now that I have the entire run on Laserdiscs, and I gotta say, a lot of the episodes are so out there that I feel like I completely forgot them, and I felt like I was watching it for the first time a lot of times.
It's
cool,
man.
man.
It's wild.
Yeah.
I've seen parts of the show. I don't think I've seen it all in its entirety. But
I would say you could borrow my Laserdiscs, but you'd also have to borrow my player.
Yeah. Don't you have two?
One of them's not fully functional right now.
Fortunately, mine are fully functional.
Did you guys see that fucking Rogue One trailer?
Yeah.
No, not yet.
What?
Yeah.
Oh shit! All right, when this is over, we're gonna watch that because that thing is fucking gorgeous. There's some great shit in that trailer, man. Like it's the first. I mean, this movie has to stand on its own as not a Skywalker Star Wars film, not part of the episodic story, but it is you watch the trailer and you forget it's Star Wars related. It's just a war film about rebellion standing up against the big bad guys. You see a couple friendly faces, some not so friendly, but it's so well done. The dialogue, there's a couple lines in it that'll just fucking break your heart just from the trailer alone. It looks fantastic. Would you agree, Chris?
Yes.
Good.
There's a bit more Vader in it.
Oh, there's a GIF forever moment in it.
Is in it?
Oh yeah. There's a moment.
He was in the first one.
Yeah, in the very end, he's like, oh, and you see like his helmet, and you're like, oh wait, that's the Vader. But
they managed to throw him in there too.
There is a moment that's like the moment where like you announce your presence in the biggest baddest way, and he just the way it comes off. I'm not going to spoil it for Sam because he hasn't seen it. There's just it's fucking awesome the way he shows up. It's really quick, but it's awesome.
0 to 100.
Real quick, but it's Vader, who's the best Star Wars character in the world. So I'm glad to have him back.
Okay.
I
need to check it out then. Apparently.
Yeah, we need to pull that up after this.
You guys never ever see anything see movies?
I finished Pete Townshend's autobiography, Who I Am. He does something.
Jake Bose.
He does something really cool in it. It's an audiobook. It's my on the way to and from work book audiobook. And Pete Townsend reads it, which is great, and he laughs in it. He shares has emotion during it. It's not just he's not just there reading it. It seems like he's just sitting down talking to you about his life over 16 hours or whatever, however long it was. Really great insight into the Who, but just him as a musician and a person. Brutally honest. I think the only way he'd ever accept doing a book is to be brutally honest.
Mm-hmm.
Working on it for a long time, but there's a moment at the end of the book The end of the damn book, he pulls out a fan letter from 1965 that he hasn't opened because he knew in 1965 he was like, you know what? One day I'm gonna write a book, and I'm gonna end it opening this letter. Ooh. So he's kept this letter forever, and he doesn't know what's in the letter. He doesn't think it's some great thing.
This entire time, this fan's like, that son of a bitch still hasn't replied to me. Why the fuck hasn't he replied?
So
to me?
he replies. In the book, he talks about replying to fan letters and people who were would write really nasty stuff. He would try to win them over or explain himself to them, and he opens the letter and reads it, and it's so crazy because again, I think he wrote the book in 2012, so probably recording around that time. But the letter's something like, "Hey Pete, I saw you in the band on Top of the Pops last week, 1965," and talks about all of the members of the band minus Roger Daltrey because he was married, and she was kind of goo goo gaga over the Who and stuff. And one of my favorite moments is it's just a stereotypical kind of fan letter. There's nothing really earth shattering, but he kind of deconstructs it in his very Pete Townsend mad scientist kind of way about how the fans are, what Who fans are, and then the perfect way he ends it, he goes something along the lines at the end. He goes, and she writes the Who, and in the O there's a little arrow going up the top. The way she drew the logo, and that's basically how he ends the book. But I thought that was so cool. He opens this fan letter that he's kind of kept sealed for 50 years. Basically,
is that part of the book, or it's just something that's on the audiobook?
Yeah, I think it's both. It's like an afterward kind of thing. And then there's a really sad part where he does his acknowledgments to everyone who's mattered to him and friends who've fallen off and they didn't end on the best relationships. But he lists all the friends that he's lost since the Who, and it's a long list. Of course, Keith Moon is on there and John Entwistle. He really, really misses John Entwistle because he knew him since he was 12 years old, and John Entwistle died of a heart attack the day before they were going to launch their tour in 2002, I think, or 2 or 3 around there, and so that really hit him hard. And he really talks about the struggle of really being the main creative force behind the Who and what that does to somebody and how he wanted to break free, and very candid about Keith Moon and the moment of him talking about just this idea of when Keith Moon passed, was it a way for him to maybe escape the Who, or all these other little things, and how he obviously always comes back to the Who, and he's in a good place now with it, and how much of course he misses Keith and John. But great, it's not like Face the Music, the Paul Stanley one, where he kind of goes track by track and a lot of things and really tells you about studio stuff. He kind of tells you kind of where they're at in the place here and there, and throwing little stories, but it's much more of a storytelling book of his life, but it's pretty dang entertaining, and I recommend it if you're looking for something to check out with the Who. I hope Roger Daltrey writes a book because I would love to hear his side. It's one of those books too where you're you think that everyone in a band is best friends, and it's not the case.
So the Face the Music,
yeah, but to the point where Pete Townsend's I didn't think this was gonna last, and I hated being in the Who for the longest time, and like I said, when there were deaths of members in the band, he was I feel bad. Is this something I wished because I wanted to get out of the band, But there's a really sweet moment where John Entwistle, the bass player, the genius bass player, who looks like my guitar teacher, Mr. Burke.
I remember him.
He was running on hard times, and he was some really bad money issues. And the last thing Pete wanted to do was tour with the Who again. But he realized the quickest way to help his buddy John of 50 plus years of friendship was to get the band back together to tour. So that's what he did. He got the band back together to tour to help John pay off his debts and get some money again because he was running on tough times. But again, like I said, brutally honest. I mean, he doesn't shy away from anything in that book.
I got an apartment.
Yeah.
Ooh. How fancy.
Yeah. I mean, it's a single bedroom. It's in Boston. Walking distance to the Boston Metro, so all you stalker fans can just launch a perimeter. And
you can try to infiltrate the Sanctum Sam Stonum.
Yes. You're the only non-stone that has crossed its doorway so far. It's what as an outsider looking in.
I mean, it was
it's an apartment.
Yeah, it was. To be totally honest, it's just kind of a generic single bedroom apartment.
Yep.
It's got a lot of space.
Lots of space.
2 closets.
That was 3.
3. Ooh.
Yeah.
You held out on me.
I know. Bedroom closet, linen closet, and Closet. The best closet. No, it's
the countertop in the kitchen doubles as a cutting board because it's made out of that
completely steel,
like, deli steel countertop.
It's old 1940s, so I'm sure there's plenty of lead paint, maybe even some asbestos if I'm lucky.
Yay!
In there, so it's nice. I've been looking for a new place to live really since the start of the summer, so it's nice to finally get a place to live. But no, that's really the only major thing. No concerts, no movies.
I did a Nightmare on Elm Street trilogy at the Alamo last night. Not episodes 1, 2, and 3, but more so accidentally the Nancy trilogy. The
best one.
Yeah, the 3 featuring what's her name, Heather Langenkamp.
Langenkamp. Was that like 1, 3, and 6?
1, 3, and
7. It's
shit.
It's the original one, Dream Warriors, the third one, and then New Nightmare.
Oh yeah, New Nightmare's cool, man.
Yeah,
my buddy.
It had been years since I've seen
a
New
while,
Nightmare,
man.
and I forgot how good it is.
Kiss My Podcast alum Kyle Matthews was at that last night.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't know what he looked like, but
No.
he was tweeting about it or did a Facebook thing about it. So,
Hmm.
yeah. I'll have to watch New Nightmare again. I like that movie.
Jake podcasts of old and new.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean those are my 3 favorite.
Yeah, those are the 3
yeah.
best.
Sure.
I came home kind of wanting to watch Freddy vs. Jason again or Scream, since New Nightmare has a lot of elements that were later kind of fused into Scream.
It's true.
The whole self-referential thing.
Yeah.
I think New Nightmare very much sets the tone for Craven moving forward in the 90s. So, yeah, cool. Guys got anything else?
I don't think so. I had a pretty boring week.
Yeah.
Just The Prisoner on Laserdisc. Oh, I finished Luke Cage.
I'm only 5 episodes in still.
Yeah.
Everybody has speeches in that fucking show.
Right?
Everybody's like, oh, this is a good time to speak about things.
Everything.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's good. It's good.
It's good writing, but at a certain point, you're like, dude, another fucking speech?
Yeah. Because the entire show sends a message.
It does, but you can send a message more than one way. But, I enjoy the show, but, and I'm only, again, halfway through the season, but unless it picks up in the back half, I'm still going to put Daredevil and Jessica Jones over it.
Yeah. What was weird is that, so the last episode, not to get all spoilery, but just the last episode is pretty much entirely denouement.
Oh.
Yeah. Like, the first act of it is basically the climax of the series, and then the acts 2 and 3 is like 45 minutes long.
Oh.
It's good. I'm not complaining. I was just kind of like,
so that final battle is just like in like episode 11 or 12.
Yeah. So like there's a good chunk of final battle in was it 13 episodes?
Yes.
So yeah. So 12, like the last half of it kind of sets up this final battle, and then it's like a 15-minute long battle in the last episode, and then it's just kind of picking up the pieces.
Yeah.
I mean,
fall to pieces.
Like I said, there's good, stuff in it, but like the last episode, is like mostly like more police procedural than anything else.
Odd.
Yeah.
Things seem pretty odd.
How odd. I look forward to it, though. I mean, I finally got caught up on The Walking Dead in time for the premiere.
Oh.
What else did I do?
You're getting caught up on Flash and Supergirl.
I finished the first season of Supergirl in time for
what do you think?
It's good.
Yeah.
I legitimately enjoyed it. Yeah. I mean, the Flash Supergirl crossover is probably my favorite episode in the entire series.
It was fun, man.
It's so much fun.
It was fun.
It's a good one.
And
that, and I think the episode where she loses her powers.
Yeah. That was a good one too.
Yeah, that was my.
You know what the worst episode is? Red Kryptonite.
Anything Red Kryptonite is
just
shit.
like Smallville.
Yeah. They have the best of intentions, but it just kind of always seems like meh.
Every Red Kryptonite story is just the same.
Yeah.
It's the same.
It's like Booster Gold.
It's Superman 3.
As much as I want Booster Gold to be a cool guy, he only has one story.
Yeah.
Redemption
that no one can acknowledge because he plays with time.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Again, check out Violent Love out in comic book shops everywhere on November 9th. And Frank Barbiere, thanks again for coming on our little program. This has been another installment of Catching Up. I'm Sam.
I'm Chris.
I'm Jake.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Good night, Eric Bana.
This has been another Geek Out production. If you enjoyed what you heard, hey, we've got a new commentary every Monday. We've got a special episode every Friday. Of course, there's the usual Catching Up show every Wednesday. And you get book club episodes just about every Tuesday these days. Thanks for listening.